What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Epic! It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist at large, but I'm losing weight. Welcome to Done Way Past Funny. I'm your host, and with me this week I have, I'm going to say, a good friend of mine, even though we've only met in person 3 times, maybe 3 at the most, maybe 4 at the, no more than 5. If there's anything more than 4, then we are meeting each other on Ambien. So I want to introduce to you the one and only Epic.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So if you don't mind, first of all, I just want to mention something before I ask you to introduce yourself to people. I just realized that your headshot and that shirt, is this like is this like your thing? Is this the only shirt you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or did you dress?
This one's looking like a U-neck a little bit, but it's all right though.
So, Epic, if you don't mind letting people know a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
a little short bio.
So I was born in 1983. No, I'm joking. I'm not going that far back. So I've done a little bit of everything. I started out as a musician. I was a rapper for, I guess, still technically a rapper. So for like 30 years. I've been doing that since I was 17. I've been professional with that. Back in 2000 and I want to say 13, I decided I was going to step away from music. Um, and I needed my next project. Um, I was going to school. I was going to ITT Tech for Network Systems Administration. And while I was going to school, I was working for Lyft. And how this all kind of happened was I ended up picking up Lauren from the Alan Cox show,
Mm-hmm.
and she was, at the time I didn't know anything about the show or anything like that, and she was telling me, oh, like you should check it out, and it ended up being the Alan Cox show, and I really enjoyed the show, and I was thinking like, I actually went to Ohio Broadcasting School like twice to try to go there, and both times it didn't work out. So it's always been like a little bit of a passion of mine, radio. I remember when I was like 12 years old, I would and it looks like your face is frozen there for a minute. I don't know if
Oh
you're
no, I'm listening. Sorry,
okay.
I have resting host face.
Okay. That's cool. Um, so in that conversation, and listening to the show, I thought like, because back when I was like 12, I used to record these little shows. Like I would just record music off of the radio, but then I would host in between them and stuff when I was like 12 years old. So I was like by myself just doing this because I just really enjoyed doing it. So I was like, what would it take for me to do this? So I Googled, um, and that's when I found out about podcasts and stuff like that. And originally I asked my wife if she would do one with me, and she said absolutely not. Like I'm not doing that. So I ended up calling up one of my best friends from since I've known him since I was like 10 years old, Goldie, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So on the very first day that we recorded our first show, she's like, I also have this friend Tokar that I want to bring along. So like I didn't meet Tokar till like the first day he came over.
Okay.
Um And then it was kind of history after that. Like we had our first show. People seemed to enjoy it. We were doing everything from my basement here. Um, and then as the show grew, um, we started getting more sponsors. We started getting more opportunities, and I started looking into doing live shows because at first they were recorded.
Right.
So I looked into that, and I had a bunch of um, technical issues at first doing that.
Right.
Just because it was new to me, I hadn't really done anything like that before, and I realized that my computer wasn't really strong enough for it either. So it caused a little bit of issues in the beginning, but then I went ahead, I spent the money, upgraded my system a little bit more, and then and then you kind of saw the show as it kind of was. Eventually, we got big enough to where we outgrew this little basement, and I had to look elsewhere. And
Right.
that's how Larry. What's funny is I've known Larry since high school, and Larry Brazil. If you guys don't know, he owns One Life to Play. It's in Parma, Ohio, and at the time, I think it was even in Westlake. And he was moving to a new place in Parma, and he said he has a really big studio that and we started talking about that because I was looking for just office space, um, and just setting something up myself.
Right.
But he already had a lot of the equipment. I added some of my stuff to his, um, and started going from there into the One Life to Play studio, and we were there for a year.
Right.
Um, so we ended up doing the show for about 5 years. We met a lot of great people, including you. Um, a lot of opportunities. A lot of funny moments that was not part of the plan. Um, Especially Mitch Malloy. That one was, which I don't know if you guys even see this. I don't even know if it's on the air anymore. So we interviewed Mitch Malloy, and if you don't know who he is, he's actually the lead singer of Great White, the '80s rock band. Now the thing about Mitch Malloy was he almost was a lead singer of Van Halen.
Okay.
Now he did not like talking about that part though.
Now you mean like
Before Great White,
before? Okay.
yeah. So he was almost the lead singer of Van Halen. Now Chris Kettler, who owns Crackpots Comedy Club in Massillon, he's the one that set this up, right? And he told me explicitly, do not mention the Van Halen thing, right? And I'm like, okay, like that's cool, right? And I even had on my paper a note, don't ask about it. So I remember. Well, it was on the back of the page. So when I flipped it and I saw it, I didn't read it right away because when you're in interviewer mode, you're just
Right.
looking at the next question. You're trying to think about all these things at one time.
Right.
And I asked him this question. Chris walked out. He got a little angry, and it kind of burned a bridge there a little bit. But yeah, that was I feel like that was a funny moment for me though. Like it's like you dumbass, like why did you do that? Yeah, because I even told Chris before that. I was like, well, what if I just like no? He's like, don't mention it, don't do it. I'm like, all right, I'll just write it in the questions because I was going to experiment with just some outrageous questions
Right.
that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Oh, what's your views on abortion, or like, just really like uncomfortable questions, um, and just to kind of make them squirm. So I think I was trying to experiment a little bit,
Right.
but I'm the wrong person. It was pretty funny. But after 5 years, I decided to end the show. There was a lot of internal things happening at the time. I was losing a couple hosts due to various reasons. There was a death. Um, One of my good friends from high school, Antonio Hall, he was on the show um, for a while. He had stage 4 colon cancer for a while, and he ended up passing away. So that was hard on me. And then I had an assistant named Rachel. As I think you remember her, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she actually took her own life. So there's some really hard times there, and I started going into like a depression and stuff like that. So um, I needed to step away, get my mental health together, which I'm a lot better now. I'm taking medicine for it, and uh, it's funny too because like when I turned 40, which I just did in this March, after that I started developing these like anxiety attacks that I've never
Right.
had before. So what happens is like my chest will tighten up, and I'll get like this weird euphoric feeling like that goes literally from like head to toe, and I almost feel like when your limb falls asleep.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like heavy breathing. I start sweating real bad. Like, it got so bad one time. I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to the hospital. But so far, it doesn't seem like it's my heart or anything. It seems like, um, it's just anxiety. So I'm taking stuff for that. I'm trying to think. Do you have any other questions about
Oh
the
yeah.
show?
Well, because you were before you did the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show you. This is I don't know if I say it. The Epic Radio Show. This is
Yeah,
one of the few surviving. Because you don't have any more of these, do you?
I don't know.
Oh, gee. Um, would you like to buy one? Okay.
How many do you have? Like,
I think you made 4 colors or
some,
3 colors.
I think there's a red one too. I thought there was a blue one as well.
I Let me see
I
here.
don't know.
Gray.
Okay.
I tried to keep one of each color. And so, and at the time, because this was back when,
Yeah, those we made because we did like this Halloween festival, uh,
right,
and we made them for promotional material because we were giving away some shirts, and we were trying to get our name out there. It was a huge festival here in Ohio. That's once a year. It was pre-pandemic, and I think it was Chris's idea to come up with that. I said, well, that's cool. People like them. They wear either like they used to have the Live Strong ones all the time, and
right, right.
What Would Jesus Do, and all them other ones. So we were like, okay, well,
What
that's
would
not
Epic
a
do?
good
No.
idea. Yeah, yeah.
So my plan, because like I said, when I got these from Chris Kettler, this was like in the very beginning. Chris was saying that I'm going to be doing a show with a friend of mine. He goes, want to help promote? Anybody want to help promote it? And I said, I'll take as many as you want to give me. And so what I was doing was whenever I was performing in Ohio, I would wear some and then pass them out. And then I realized I was running out. And I said, wait a second, I want to keep something for myself. And I said, well, so I kept one of each color. I set aside one of each color that I had left. So I could have had red, I could have had blue, I don't know. But these are the 4 colors I had left. So I said, okay, I want to get one of each. And I will wear these whenever I perform in Ohio. And I will, I won't give them away, but I will show them to people and talk about your show.
Aw, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was,
Know that.
you know, that was
Um,
my way of trying to help promote, because I appreciated what you guys were doing. And one of the things you were doing, you was aside from the fact that what you had is a radio show that was, uh, I don't want to say morning zooish, but it was basically, like you touched on topics, nothing political usually, unless the politics was really stupid.
yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't about the politics; it was about the
No,
stupidity.
and the thing was, I made a conscious decision early on that we weren't going to do politics, and the reason why is like I felt like if you were um if you lean one way or the other, like you were alienating half of your audience. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted a place because especially with today's landscape and how everything is, everything's politicized. I wanted just a place where it was neutral, that we could laugh at everybody's situation, and we could all kind of come together and enjoy for that couple hours without having to worry about us getting really too deep or anything into any of that. I wanted just a fun time that everybody could kind of. It didn't always work out like that, but as much as we could, um, we tried to stay out of that.
Now, one of the things, because sometimes you just touch on things like unpopular, I shouldn't say unpopular, but I'm going to say uncomfortable stories, but you tried to cover them in an amusing way. But even something as serious as like when Bob Saget passed away, okay, or actually even more saddening when Betty White passed away. Um, the there were there topics that sometimes because you have kids,
I
right? You
did,
had
yeah.
9, 10 kids.
I,
Is it 11
I'm
kids?
not. No, I have four. I have 4 kids. Yeah,
4. I'm sorry. After 3, it feels like 9 or 10. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I mean, because that once the number of kids outnumbers the number of parents, that's it. You just don't want to towel as anarchy. But were there topics? Well, first, were your kids old enough to listen to your show, and did they?
They did. And the thing is, whenever you're doing something like this, because I mean, I'm sure comedians, like they have kids, the kids watch their specials, whatever. You just let them know, like, hey, these are jokes. This isn't like what we really feel, and um, I don't think even my younger two even really understood that much, anyways. But it
Right.
was it was funny that there would be times I'd go to walk into like my son's room and they're
Mm-hmm.
playing Epic Radio Show. Like
Uh-huh.
they're like trying to interview each other and stuff like that. It was really cute. My second to oldest daughter was actually on the show a couple times.
Okay. Now, because my question is, were there topics that sometimes you just after the show you had to go like, okay, first of all, you didn't mention your wife's name. You just said, well, I'm just gonna say you said like
Oh,
Ashley.
actually, yeah. And
Yeah, I'm saying you say like Ashley. I think we need to talk to the kids about this particular topic. Was
no,
there something?
no, not unless something got brought up, which it almost never did.
Oh, okay. So your kids were that untainted that they just knew about all those things, like because y'all did some crazy news. Y'all talked about the crazy Russian lady who smeared poop on the swings set to try to keep the kids off of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, no,
Bill Cosby,
my wife does an amazing job with the kids, and she
despite your best efforts to not.
pretty much,
No,
yeah. Um, so it's a give and take situation there. She usually takes everything I say and completely gives me the finger on it. So no, but like no, not really, not anything I can think of where they like was like, oh, what is this or what is that? I don't think they really understood everything. They were
Right.
pretty young. My oldest one like almost never watched the show. Uh, but like I said, my second oldest, she would watch from the time to time, and she was actually a guest on the show a couple times early on.
Now, when you've interviewed a lot of I'm gonna say lower tier comedians because like I'm not a known comedian, so there were a lot of comedians of my caliber and lower that were interviewed on your show. Well, not just comedians, but because musicians,
Actors,
all kinds of
actresses.
yeah,
There
yeah,
was Broadway play actors. There was dancers. There was a lady who got who was trying to think. She had a viral video um from Cards Against Humanity, and she got like
right.
a ton of like views for that. So I invited her on, and so sometimes it was influencers too. Sometimes it was just like viral people on the show. Just a lot of different. I also had uh I had the mayor of Maple Heights on there. I also had um who else? I know there was some mental health. Like I would try to around because I believe it's in October. There's Mental Health Awareness Month and stuff like that, and we would do something for that.
I think they call that Oktoberfest.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what that is. I think that's what Oktoberfest is for people to get together and drink and discuss their issues and their problems.
Hmm.
So now I'm going to, because we're talking about the show, I'm going to play a clip, the clip that you sent in,
Okay.
so that people have an idea of what we're talking about. This was from episode 200.
Yes. I chose that one because it was very pivotal for us. It was our 200 show. I mean, we uh we worked really hard to get to that point, and we were in a position at that time where I think it was towards the end of the show's life,
Right,
and it was almost like at that point, is like I was thinking to myself, like, how many more can I do? Like, how many more
right.
can we do? How much more can we afford to do? Like, because I mean, I'm not. Once you get to a certain point, like doing this, you do end up spending money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I know. Yeah,
So, uh, I was looking at that factor too. Like, am I making enough money to cover everything? If I'm not, then how long do we have from that and stuff like that? I did have an investor, Ryan Hufford. Ryan
okay,
Hufford.
okay. I've seen that name a lot in the text, in the chat rooms.
Yeah, yeah, he was actually an investor. Without him, we probably wouldn't have been able to move the show to where it was.
Oh man, I shouldn't have been so mean to him when I was yelling at him on in the chat.
Yeah, um, I was like, yeah, like let's just bash on the investor. That's cool.
I had no idea he was an investor. I just thought he was like
Yeah.
a loyal listener.
At the very end of the show too, I was going to because we saw we were starting to lose listeners because another fun fact is like we were one of the few people doing what we were doing at the time. Like
Yes, you were.
we there was not a lot of people doing lives. There wasn't a lot of people doing podcasts like regular everyday people. Like at the time, it was like famous people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or
Yes.
they were very niche. Um,
Yes.
like crime related or like storytelling
Brittany
and stuff
Houston,
like
not
that.
Brittany Houston, Brittany
You
Spears.
know, yeah, like there was just so many like other types of things, but there wasn't one quite like us, like that had like a weekly show. It was live. We had a guest, and from all over the country. It wasn't just
Yes.
local people, but there's people from just about every state, and even overseas. Because we had a couple of guests that were from like England or Australia or whatever. So we'd have to work through that, like the time differences and stuff like that.
Now, just one thing before I play the clip, I just want you to know whenever there's a first on this show, I usually bring it up. You are the first person to actually smoke on the show. Most people do edibles,
Well,
so
it's
you
cigarettes though. I'm not smoking.
oh chewing tobacco isn't that what that is? Chewing tobacco isn't that edible? So
I don't think you actually eat that. I believe that's why they have the pip cup.
oh, so it's just chewing and not chewing and swallowing.
Yeah, try
That's
not
the
to
difference.
swallow it. Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna hit play on this segment from episode 200.
With you. You don't have to buy it because people smoke pot. They want to smoke with somebody else, man.
Yeah, nobody wants to be high alone.
Nobody wants to smoke alone.
There's a little trick. If you ever want weed, all you have to do.
I was about to say, tell me all the weed tricks.
Oh, dude, the trick is you just go you gotta just be
I'll
real
suck
curious.
Your dick is what Kevin
Ooh,
I'll
no, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't. Fuck, dude, if you're sucking dick for weed, holy, hang it
I would
up.
never suck dick for weed.
Hang it
Only
up.
heroin.
No, only heroin. No, you just have to tell people like, is that weed? You gotta be like, is that weed? And then they're like, yeah. And then you're like, oh man, I've never done that before. And they'll be like, what? And then you will do more weed than you've ever done your whole
I don't
entire
think I
life.
can pull that
night.
one
Wait,
off.
do you think somebody's gonna believe me? Like,
That's it though.
never
You just-
had that.
You're like,
You think I
man,
could try? You think I could try some?
yeah, be like, that's always looks so cool.
You want to let people know who that was
Yeah.
in
So
the clip?
on the bottom left of the screen was Kevin Morrison. He's a stand-up comedian. And I think that was actually his last show with us, like around the last show with us, because his father, which is open in that show. I mean, we talk about it during that show, but he developed a autoimmune disease, so he had to step away shortly after that to help take care of him.
So an autoimmune disease is what couldn't be around cars. So just for the people who don't know what an autoimmune
Basically,
disease.
his white cells were attacking things they weren't supposed to be attacking.
So they were racist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll go with that, GD. Extremely racist, and they were like, "Oh, we're against them Reds. We're gonna kill all the Reds." Yeah. So
Get those damn platelets out of here. I'm sorry.
he don't need them. So yeah. And then of course Chris Kettler and Larry Brazil. Chris Kettler, obviously the owner of Crack Pasta, as I've mentioned earlier, and then Larry was the owner of the studio. But it was funny how he kind of became part of the show. That was a complete accident. He actually won a contest. That's how he first ended up being on the show, because he won a contest to go to a Browns game with the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And for that show, we invited him on too. You know what I mean? And he
Right.
really enjoyed it, and we enjoyed having him on. So he ended up becoming a full-time cast member after that.
Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. You have just watched part 1 of my interview with Epic. Please join us for part 2. And when you come back, bring a friend.